I'm Briana Rangel,
And I'm Emilee Wells.
and this is Hoofbeat News.
My name's Colsey Claremont.
Hey, it's Emilee.
Hi, my name is Jose Hernandez.
I'm Akacia Schauermann.
I'm Johnny Prouty.
Hi, I'm Gaby.
I'm Crone. Hi, I'm SelfEsteem.
Today is March 16th, and we are back with another episode of Hoofbeat News. Up next, Akacia has the story of one of Fort Morgan's important community resources.
The SARA House is a non-profit organization that aids victims of sexual assault and domestic violence here in Morgan County. It is located at 418 Ensign Street.
Okay, so the SARA House we are a child advocacy center, and we also provide services to victims of sexual assault and domestic violence, and we provide education and prevention services in the schools and to parents, caregivers, and other community agencies. So it's really hard to narrow down the most important services. I would say for the high school students, it would probably be some prevention and education services, but also we can talk to students about things that are going on in their lives if they're, if they're experiencing teen dating violence. The requirement is if you're over age 13, you can access services on your own. So we can have the kids reach out to us directly if they wanted to talk to someone or receive services. So if they're interested in volunteering, receiving services, or getting more involved with SARA House, they can reach out to me, and they can call our phone number at 970-867-2121, and they can press extension 4 to reach me, or they can reach me by email at sarah@sarahouseco.org, and we can talk more about what they're interested in and things that might be a good fit and ways that they can get involved.
So I'm Stevie Gray. Part of what I do here is I'm the regional human trafficking specialist. So I'm working with different community members and providers to try and establish a regional human trafficking task force so that we can better meet the needs that victims have. So that's anywhere a child up to an adult, because unfortunately we know that does happen across the spectrum. And one thing that we're going to be able to offer in the fall is a new curriculum that's a prevention for trafficking, as well as support around just healthy relationships, safe technology use and those kind of things. And it's called Not a Number through Love 146. So we hope that we'll be able to see you all in the schools a little bit more and talk to you about that. And trafficking is something that people are talking about more now. So if there's students that want to figure out how to get involved or have opinions or thoughts, I would love to hear from you. So I know Sarah gave our number. You can also email me. It's stevi@sarahouseco.org. And you can also find us on Facebook at SARA House CO and on Instagram. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Akacia.
As high school students, we sometimes forget the importance of our self-esteem. Gaby took a look at how our self-esteem affects students and how we can improve it.
Teens sometimes suffer anxiety and feel like they need to be perfect in order to feel good. According to mindful.org, encouraging teens to develop their strengths and see beyond themselves can help boost their self-esteem.
Self-esteem is confidence in yourself and your own abilities.
Some students and FMHS staff talked about what improved their self-esteem.
Dressing nice improves my self-esteem.
I like to get my hair done and feel pretty again.
Getting ready in the mornings. Working out and scoring goals.
Mr. Einsbar will tell us more about the topic.
Benefits to good self-esteem: you feel secure and worthwhile. You have positive relationships with others. You're confident in yourself. You don't have to search or try something like substances to make you happy. You already feel that naturally. You have that natural high already. Yeah, and unfortunately, there can be a lot of things, and it's going to be different for everybody. Unrealistic expectations is a big one. You know, we all have goals for ourselves, and sometimes when we don't reach those goals immediately, we feel like a failure, when in reality, it's just part of learning. It's part of growing. Anyone who is great at something at one time wasn't. It's a process. So our thoughts, the way we talk to ourselves, it affects our attitude about ourselves. If we're constantly telling ourselves how bad we are at something, eventually we believe that. We take that as truth, and it becomes part of the belief in ourselves moving forward. Another thing, comparing ourselves to others. We may see that something is so easy to somebody else, and we're getting frustrated that it's not that easy for us, but we fail to recognize all the things that we do so well that others may struggle with.
If teens struggle with self-love, what should they do?
They need to focus on the good things, focus on the accomplishments that they have made, and not that it's perfection. Okay, we're focusing on accomplishments, not the perfection piece of it. Like I said before, we need to stop comparing ourselves to others. We're all different, and that's great. And this next one can be really hard because of history, not the class. But we need to not be afraid to let go of toxic people. If all the other person is doing is taking from us and not providing us with something positive, we need to allow ourselves to move on.
What advice would you give to any student who struggles with self-esteem?
We need to change the way we talk to ourselves. We need to get rid of that negative self-talk and replace it with positive self-talk. We need to allow ourselves to stumble in our journey. And again, rather than when we stumble, focusing on the negative and how bad we are at something, turn it around. Use positive self-talk. You know, I'm saying rather than, you know, I'll never be good at something, change it to, you know what, I'm new at this. It takes time. I will get there eventually with practice. Another thing, talking to someone. Okay, us counselors, we're always here for you all. You also have a lot of great people in this building who will be there for you also. You don't have to do this alone. That at times can be too much to carry by yourself.
Thanks, Gaby.
For our next story, Brock gets to know our foreign exchange student, Elena.
Good morning, everybody. It's nice to see you all again. Today, I wanted to take a look at one of our fellow students at the high school. This time, though, I wanted to try something a little different and interview someone other than the usual faces we've seen around for years now. This week, I wanted to take a look at one of this year's foreign exchange students and ask them a couple questions about what life is like back home and here. As always, I wish everybody that's watching this has a great day, and I hope you enjoy the video, and I'll see you guys later. What is your name?
I'm Elena. Hi.
Where are you from?
I'm from Austria.
How do you like in Colorado?
I like it here. It's pretty cool.
What's the biggest difference between Austria and Colorado that you've noticed?
Everything is way bigger here. Like, it's huge and yeah.
What about school? What's the biggest difference with that?
That you're actually able to choose your classes and less classes. So I have just 7 here and I have about 15 or something in Austria. So.
Why did you choose to visit Colorado out of any other place?
I didn't choose to get here. So like I applied for an exchange year in America and a host family picked me. I wrote a letter to someone I didn't know and they chose me.
Why did you choose America?
I think it was because I always wanted to experience it, how it is here, and I think it's a huge difference to Europe, and it's another culture, and that's probably why I chose to go.
Cool.
Thanks, Brock.
To finish our broadcast, Johnny has an informational story on the effects of vaping.
Vaping is a dangerous drug that has been going around recently in young adults and teens. What happens if you get caught with a vape in school?
So anytime that a student's in possession of a vape or is vaping in the school, there's different layers of consequences. The school side of things is there's going to be a suspension involved, and then depending on the number of times you've been caught with a vape or vaping, it's going to increase. But the first stance is a 2-day in-school suspension, and then after that it's going to increase depending on the number of times you've been caught with the vape.
How does getting caught with a vape in school affect your sports career?
If you get caught with a vape in your first offense, it's an automatic 20% of your season. If you get caught with the second time, it's 40% of your season. And if it's third time, it's like 3 strikes, you're out, you're done for the remainder of the year. And if you don't fulfill your suspension, if you're asked to leave the team or you quit the team, then that suspension will follow you to the next season.
What legal trouble can you get into if you're caught with a vape in school?
Well, if you're legal trouble, the initial response is going to be a summons. It's a mandatory ticket. You're going to get a ticket if you're caught with a vape. The city has a policy of zero tolerance, so on the initial you're going to get a ticket. It's going to have a fine and a surcharge. The surcharge by itself is $20 on top of and that goes along with the fine. After you've been contacted once for it, on any offenses after that, it's a mandatory summons. So along with the original fines and surcharges that you would get, you also look at court costs, filing fees, all of those things. So it gets far more expensive each time you get caught. And the more often you're caught, the less lenient a judge will be, so the fines will get steeper. And of course, there's also, even on a first offense, there's also community service and things like that you will have to perform.
What effects does vaping have on your health?
The first thing we need to know about vaping is that it's not water molecules or water vapor, as they call it, that we're inhaling into our lungs. It's actually an oil that is based in toxins, harmful toxins, chemicals, metals. So we're bringing all these harmful chemicals into our lungs, and then since it's oil, not vapor, coming into our lungs, it doesn't leave our lungs. So our lungs start becoming coated with this oil, and then this has so many different kind of effects on our lungs. We are more susceptible to illnesses. We can get sick with pneumonia easier, and then our lungs can't heal themselves, so it's harder time to get over these illnesses. There's also the lung illness that they're seeing specifically from vaping due to the oil coating the lungs. And it can also cause or make asthma worse if you already suffer from asthma. So anything that has to do with the lungs needing to be able to breathe and function properly, if we're inhaling something into our lungs that isn't supposed to be there, that isn't oxygen, we're already putting ourselves at a disadvantage and harming our lungs. And especially when it's oils that we can't get out of our lungs that are just plagued with chemicals, irons, metals, everything that should not be in our lungs. And then moving on from that, vape products, even if they say it's a nicotine vape product, every vape product has an amount of nicotine in it. If it's under a certain percent, they don't have to mark it as nicotine additive. But studies have shown every vape product out there has a certain amount of vape or nicotine in it. So nicotine is one of the most addictive chemicals out there. It's more addictive than cocaine, and so our body really responds quickly to this. And so the more nicotine we're introducing to our body, the more we're going to need it, and so the more we're going to vape, or in some cases we're going to turn to smoking because it is a cheaper alternative to vaping. So the effects that nicotine has directly on the body is that it affects the area of your brain that's responsible for attention, memory, and learning. 3 vital things that you need as students. And this can cause psychiatric disorders as well as cognitive impairment because the nicotine reroutes and rewires the brain, which is also very important at this time in our lives, or for the teenagers, because the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that's responsible for the attention, memory, and learning, isn't done developing until age 25. So if we're using nicotine and it's changing the composition of these 3 important factors, it's going to change the way we think and are able to function as adults. Nicotine can also increase heart rate, raise the blood pressure, damage arteries, and lead to blood clots. It also reduces blood supply and absorption of calcium, which then weakens our bones. And then it reduces the circulation and flow of nutrients, tissues, into our muscles, which can have detrimental effects for athletes and will increase the likelihood of injuries. So nicotine, apart from it being so addictive, it has a lot of dangerous effects on our bodies, especially if we are younger and our brains and our bones and our muscle tissues, everything is still developing. So it would be better if you could put off using vape products, or hopefully what we always hope for is just don't vape altogether, please.
Vaping is seriously dangerous to yourself and to everyone around you. So if you need help or require assistance from a staff member or administrator, please make sure to contact them so they can help you.
Thanks, Johnny.
That's all the news we have for you today.
We'll see you next week for another episode of Hoofbeat News.
From all of us here at Hoofbeat, have a great week, FMHS.